Today, I want to talk about people in spirit affecting things here in the physical world, spirit affecting physical matter. Um, so, years before, I believe that people in spirit have been playing with me for years, engaging with me for years. I've talked about that in other videos. I should have clued in a lot earlier that I am a medium. I didn't. So, in my 20s, I lived alone. I had my own apartment, and I had, just as one example, this kind of thing's happened my whole life, but just as this one example, I had a checkbook that would come and go. So I came home from work one day, I opened my mail, and in an envelope, a thick envelope, was my checkbook. And with it was a note that said, found in lobby of Pasadena Hilton. And I hadn't been anywhere near the Pasadena Hilton, though I lived kind of in that area. So I thought, well, that's weird. And then another time, one Saturday morning, I was having breakfast. I got a phone call, and this woman said that her son had found my checkbook on his paper route. Did I want to come get it? I said, oh, yes, thank you. And then as we were talking, I said, where do you live? And it was several cities away that I hadn't been to. So she also mailed it to me out of kindness. And then one day I couldn't find it, and it was months. Well, it was weeks initially. And so I just started using another pack of checks. And then a few months later, I was paying my phone bill. I wrote out a check, and I left my checkbook next to that bill on my kitchen counter. And I went to the living room to watch TV, and there was my checkbook sitting on the couch. And I thought, did I carry that over? I didn't know if I'd put it down. So I went to put it back on the counter, and my new checkbook was there on the counter. And those were the old checks that had been gone for months. So in my experience, people in spirit can and do affect things here in the physical world. I have no idea how that happens. I just know that it happens. So I was connected with someone once. I had a client. I was connected with her grandfather. And I said, it's not evidential, but because we can't prove it, and it's also obvious, he's showing me that he's with his own dad, which makes sense, because if grandpa in his 80s or 90s dies, it would make sense that he's with his own father. But I said, that man, that father figure, is showing me, like, watching over this guy while he was here, like intervening in his life. No one's ever shown me that before. And this has only happened in one reading ever, where someone in spirit showed me they were intervening, watching over someone in their life. But I told my client, I said, there has to be some story of this guy miraculously surviving death. Like, should have died in that car accident, but didn't. There's some, because this guy's taking credit for that. And she said, oh, when he was in the army, a grenade went off next to him, should have blown him into several pieces, and he survived. He was injured, but he didn't die. And that is kind of the miracle story, where he miraculously survived an event like that. I said, okay, well, this father person of his is taking credit for that. Like, yes, I did that. So, and now they're together. They were showing me this very joyful reunion. It's never happened to me, but people have told me, people who I love and respect have said they get pennies all the time as signs from their loved ones, pennies or feathers, things like that. And I believe that if you have your attention on pennies, for whatever reason, you'll find them. It's like when you buy a new car and you suddenly see that make of car in all the parking lots. But I'm also talking about people who have pennies that show up in their sock drawer or in a coffee mug, somewhere where there wouldn't normally be a penny. So again, I do believe people in spirit can affect things here. So it raises the question, if they can, and they love us so much, and I think they do, why does anything bad ever happen to us? Why do school shootings, for example, why does that kind of thing happen? And I have sort of a twofold opinion about that. And that's that, first of all, I think they're constantly available to us, but their attention is not constantly on us. They're not constantly watching. And I also think it's our attention on them that points their attention to this physical world. So usually around their birth or their passing, or if we happen to find a picture of them and we're thinking about them, that gets their attention, in my opinion. But also the bigger issue to that is any kind of loss of life here is a reunion there. And that's a good thing, or at least it's not a bad thing, typically. And everybody leaves, right? This is a temporary experience. So whether the avenue that you leave this life is through cancer or through a car accident or a bullet wound, everybody goes sometime. I believe, many people watching this believe, that we are eternal beings having a temporary physical life experience. So, and it doesn't last forever. And also, I believe they may be intervening in our lives in ways or often enough that we don't know, which is, again, totally not provable. But if someone, for example, someone in spirit delayed you finding keys for just enough seconds that you then miss a car accident somewhere down the line, how would you know, right? But I think they do stuff like that too. So that's my thoughts on this. This is going to be a super short recording. And place your comments or questions below on that. I'd be interested to see what people have to say. Interested to see in what people have to say. And next week, I'm going to talk about things like spirit guides and calling cards. Spirit guides specifically for mediumship, and the concept of calling cards, things like that. So that's next week. And thank you for your time this week. And I will see you next week.